Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. This is what Fujifilm users dream about at night. Can you imagine a marked physical dial solely for the purpose of swapping between film sims, a revolver loaded with film stocks, a way to Fuji like never before? But the camera itself looks kind of funny though. It's a bit too round. This is Fuji's new X-T50 and it's the roundest Fujifilm camera I have ever seen. I personally have still not gotten used to the curves, but it's really gonna come down to preference. What is for sure is how refreshing it is to see Fuji making such bold design choices. Design is a very personal thing, which is why if you want a truly personalized design for building a website, our sponsor Squarespace has a tool called Squarespace Blueprint. It's an incredibly powerful guided design tool to help you come up with a catchy design with the help of AI. Unlike choosing from a template, this gives you a completely personalized design from color schemes to fonts, and it even lets you tailor the tone of the copywriting that's generated. Your website is automatically optimized for every device. It's also got powerful SEO tools built in to help your site show up more often to more people and in exactly the way you want. Of course, you may want to further customize your site down the line, and with Squarespace's next-gen website editor called Fluid Engine, you can intuitively customize every little design detail with drag-and-drop technology for both desktop and mobile. With your Squarespace website, you can sell anything from products to content to time. Payments are flexible and seamless for your customers, letting you accept credit cards, PayPal, and Apple Pay, or even offer the option to pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay in eligible countries. Head on over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/zycheng to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. It feels wrong to put it this way, but the least surprising thing on most new Fuji cameras would often always be the sensor. In other words, this is packing the flagship-grade, high-resolution variant of the 5th generation X-Tron sensor along with an X-Processor 5. Typical Fuji, flagship sensor comes standard. So this is a mid-range body with image quality and autofocus on par with the X-T5 and X-H2. That's 40.2 megapixels, up to 8 frames per second mechanical shutter, 7-stop IBIS with subject detection and tracking autofocus, nothing we haven't seen before on current-gen Fuji cameras. But for those upgrading from its predecessor, the X-T30 Mark II, these would be very significant upgrades over the 4th generation hardware on the X-T30 Mark II. Prior to the official announcement at least, Fuji has said nothing to me about why they skipped over the number 40 and went straight from X-T30 Mark II to X-T50. Does that mean the 30 Mark II was technically an X-T40? I thought for a moment it's because the number 4 means bad luck in some Asian cultures, including Japanese, but they've up and made an X-T4 before. Anyhow, one thing about the X-T50 that does not come across on camera is its size. If you've ever seen one of the double-digit X-T cameras in person, you'll know how much bigger they look in pictures. When you actually hold one though, you'll realize just how compact these things are. For scale, the X-T50 is even narrower than the X106, and alongside the XH2S, the 50 is just guilty of fat shaming at this point. But wait, there's more. I mean, in all unfairness, we are looking at one APS-C and another medium format, but these were released together at the same event, so this is how the X-T50 looks like beside the new GFX 100S Mark II. Though being a smaller, more light-hearted camera does mean it doesn't go as hard on some things as a flagship, despite having a flagship sensor and processor. The battery, for instance, is the W126S, along with a single SD card slot beside it, micro HDMI, and the headphone jack is via a Type-C dongle. You don't get 8K video like on the X-T5, nor internal ProRes like the X-H2. It uses the same articulating display as the X-T30 Mark II, meaning there's no option to tilt it upwards when shooting vertically, like you could on the X-T5. But should any X-T5 owners make fun of your screen, you can flip them, your pop-up flash, and remind them they don't have one. For video, what you do still get is f-log 2 and 6.2K up to 30p, 4K is up to 60p unless you're shooting in the super sampled HQ mode, then that goes up to 30p. This is all of course in 10-bit 422, and like the rest of the 5th generation Fujis, you can also tap to track a subject to focus on while shooting video. Impressive video specs, but Fuji's not really explicitly marketing the X-T50 as a hybrid video beast, and that's likely due to thermals. Being so small, Fuji's claiming only 10 minutes of 4K 60p recording time under ambient temperatures of 40 degrees Celsius. I tested this myself and there's a chance you might get away with a bit more. I rolled 4K 60p with the camera's auto power off temperature set to high and pulled the screen out for more airflow. Under direct sun, it went for 18.5 minutes before shutting itself off with a temperature warning. The best case scenario Fuji's claiming is 1 hour of continuous recording at 4K 30p with ambient temperatures of 25 degrees. But that's very likely the main reason Fuji's positioning this as a stills-focused camera. I keep wanting to describe the X-T50 as a baby X-T5, but it's actually got quite a bit more personality than just a shrunk down X-T5. A big contributor to this is definitely the film simulation dial. It's the headline feature of the X-T50, and it does make this a very unique camera. In its position, it used to be the drive dial on the X-T30 Mark II, so you might be wondering where that's gone now. Well, the trash can, quite literally. The button for selecting drive modes being shared with the trash button is not exactly an uncommon thing on Fuji cameras. In fact, I feel right at home selecting drive modes this way. But I digress. Back to the film sim dial. The X-T50 gets all 20 of the current film simulations up to Reala Ace, and on the dial you'll find 8 film simulations printed with 4 user assignable slots. Let's first go over what is on the dial. You get Provia, Velvia, Astia, Classic Chrome, Reala Ace, Classic Neg, Nostalgic Neg, and Acros. This means what's missing from the dial are Pro Neg High, Pro Neg Standard, Eterna, Eterna Bleach Bypass, Monochrome, and Sepia. If you want those at your fingertips, you can still assign them to the custom slots on the dial. And now you might be wondering, why are there 3 FS labels and 1 C label? You see, once you bind a film sim to one of the 3 user FS positions, they behave just like the rest of the permanent film sim slots. The menu item on your screen for film simulation gets grayed out and it follows whatever's selected by the physical dial. The C position brings you back to a more conventional experience. You can change your film sims through the menu system or the Q menu like on other Fujis which do not have a film sim dial. At the same time though, the C slot still retains the last film sim which was selected, so it also functions as a 4th custom setting for your film sim dial, albeit a more variable one. For binding the more committed FS positions, the X-T50 has a special submenu just for the film simulation dial. Here you can customize the 3 FS positions, as well as an option to choose which filter you'd like to use with specifically the Acros simulation. Now, with enough skepticism, this may come across as a bit of a gimmick for some when they hear of a film simulation dial, but speaking from my own experience with the X-T50, I can be very sure that I have never gone between film sims as often as I have on this. Typically, you'd pick and use one film sim for a session of photos, and you tend to stick to it because it takes a bit of work to change it. But with the X-T50, changing film sims is as convenient as changing your shutter speed or changing f-stops. It's definitely encouraged me to use different film sims more often or try a film sim I wouldn't typically use for a particular scene. It's now a decision you can afford to make on a shot-to-shot basis. The seemingly trivial dial really had much larger an effect on the way I was using this camera than I anticipated. You could even play film sim roulette with it, just keep spinning it about and... Reala Ace! So that's the major hardware interface switch up coming from the X-T30 Mark II. There are some more minor changes like the AE lock and AF buttons being repositioned. The rubber finish on the grip for some reason no longer extends to where the buttons are. I think it's also kind of cool that the view mode button for the EVF is actually a remappable custom function button as well. What hasn't changed is that lever for engaging full auto mode. Now, my pretentious ass also thought it's something I would never use, but I stand corrected. That lever is actually quite a bit of of a butt saver because of how accessible its position is. It really comes in clutch when you need to fire a shot, but you're stuck with settings that aren't quite right, or your autofocus isn't biting because you set it to train mode while taking photos of people. In that case, just flick the thing to auto and get your photo. Now, depending on what you use your camera for, the X-T50 may very well be a better choice over one of the supposedly superior flagships. It's a compact, light-hearted camera which you wouldn't mind keeping close on a casual day, yet it packs the same core as the flagships for times when you do need it to do some heavy lifting. Though, no matter how you look at it, I still think it looks quite round.